So you've clicked on this video because you want to know how to learn French in 365 days, 12 months, 1 year. Well, very simply in this video, I'm going to go through, I'll explain to you exactly, firstly, how not to learn French. Secondly, how to learn French correctly. And then thirdly, a few things that the students I'm currently helping learn French one-on-one with are finding useful in their French learning to achieve their goals. Let's get started. Salut, je suis Rory. Si vous êtes nouveau ici, j'apprends le français depuis 4 ans maintenant. Et pour moi, j'aide des gens à apprendre le français sur YouTube. Allons-y. So the first thing is how not to learn French. There's heaps of things here you can get wrong, okay? So listen carefully. The first thing is, what's your goals with French? Because for some people, they want to pass a French exam. And for them, grammar is very important. They need to know the exact spelling of French words in order to achieve their French goal of passing an exam, for example. They might be wanting to go to Canada. They might be wanting to go to France or Belgium or Luxembourg or Switzerland. They need French in order to pass an exam. Their goals are completely different to, say, your goals, where you may want to just simply speak good French or listen to a French podcast or be able to read a French book or talk to your kids in French or your friends in French or your family. So if you've got the goal over here of being able to speak good French in 12 months, for example, listen to a podcast in 6 months, for example, you need to focus on doing the things you need to do in order to build the knowledge to be able to do that. Okay, so that's the first thing. What's your goal? Second thing is, what do you not want to be doing? Well, you do not want to be doing things that are not going to get you progressing in that direction of achieving your goals. If you want to be able to listen to a French podcast really well, what you definitely don't want to be doing is opening up a grammar book and reading through grammar rules. Simple reason is, at the moment, you're listening to me in English. You're understanding me perfectly without thinking of a single grammar rule. So why would you study French grammar in order to understand a French podcast where someone's going to speak to you in French just like I'm talking to you now? And with that, you need to be able to understand them without thinking of grammar rules. Do the exact same with French. In English, you didn't learn it, okay, when you first learned English. You didn't learn it by reading all of the grammar rules. I know in school they taught us grammar, okay, or your parents might have helped you with grammar when you were studying English. However, the main learning you had was playing with your friends, okay, talking with your parents, meeting new people, playing sports, learning an instrument, doing all these other things, watching people online, okay, communicating, listening to communication and communicating, not analyzing small little rules of a language, okay? We didn't open up a book of, okay, here are all the rules of English, memorize it. No, we simply allowed the English to come to us. Do the same in French. It works. Another thing you don't want to be doing is putting lots of pressure on yourself to get everything right. The hardest thing in French is to go from beginner to intermediate. Once you're at intermediate level, getting to advanced is not as difficult, okay? In order to move from beginner to intermediate, you need to make sure that you're not putting so much pressure on yourself that you're going to demotivate yourself. Because if you do, you will not progress. The difficult thing is knowing what to do, okay? And actually having a mindset of, okay, I got something wrong. I got something wrong in French. I don't know that, okay? That's normal not to know it, simply because I have never learned French before. If everything in French was the same as English, then you would already be fluent, okay? It's something I tell my students all the time. French is obviously different to English. We do our best to have the French and have the English and merge the two, essentially using the English sentences that you're fluent in to understand the French. But the thing is, there's always going to be differences, and that's normal because French and English are different. So with that, you cannot aim to get everything perfect. Understanding 80% of 100 French sentences or conversations or stories is infinitely better than understanding 100% of just 10 conversations or stories, okay? So it's volume that you can understand to a good level, anywhere between 60, 70, 80%, way better than just focusing on getting 100% right, the very easy beginner, say, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old level French. We don't worry about that. We look to scale as best we can instead of just focusing on getting 100% right of very easy items, okay? That's important. Another thing you don't want to do is rush yourself into doing things with French. For example, I see lots of people online and they say, hey, start speaking French right away, even when you're a beginner. Well, okay, I'm sure some people have had success with this, but me personally, I wanted to speak French with a good accent. So do my students. So what we do is we don't speak from day one. We speak only once you've got a good and intermediate reading and listening level. They usually take around 4 to 5 months. So for that 4 to 5 month period, they're building a good base of French. What they're not doing is speaking French right away. I had one student, for example, he's from the US, and he was saying that he hired a tutor from italki to help him learn French. This tutor, it was a session each week for about an hour, 60 minutes. And for the first half an hour, the French tutor would say to him, okay, we're going to speak French, essentially forcing him to speak French. And he hated this part because he didn't know even a basic sentence in French if he listened to it or read it. So how the hell is he going to speak good French? That's completely normal. Just like for me, I could not give you a good speech on politics in the Middle East. I have no idea what is even going on over there. So there's no way I could speak and give a proper presentation about the politics in the Middle East without sounding completely silly. I wouldn't learn anything from giving output without having any input, okay? I don't have any knowledge up here, so how could I provide an intelligible output? It's the exact same thing with French. If you don't have good knowledge and a good knowledge base of inputs, reading and listening over hours, tens of hours, hundreds of hours, the output is going to feel really awkward and it's going to be incorrect. It'll be a waste of time, very simply. Now, what you should do instead is simply get good at reading and listening. Build your confidence up. Don't force yourself to do you're doing the speaking too early, that's a problem, okay? Simply because you feel really uncomfortable with it and you know it's not productive. Just like if you're doing reading and listening, that's way too difficult too early, that's a problem, okay? If you're, say trying something new with French, but you feel really uncomfortable with it, you don't know how to do it, you don't have proper instructions and clear way to do it, that's a problem as well. So doing things you understand why you're doing it, that's very important. So that's the first thing. That was what not to do, okay? What to do, number 2. Very simply, first 6 months, 5 to 6 months, even 4 months if you move quick, reading and listening focus, okay? There's a book, it's called Asimil. I think it's the book of books, okay? It's the exact one I use, the only resource I use to move from beginner reading and listening level to intermediate reading and listening level from anywhere between 4 to 6 months, okay? It's the exact one all my students use. Now this book here, it's very good because it gives you French, it gives you English, and it merges the two. It has audio for all of the French, and the English sentences there are direct translations of the French. And what that means is, what you're looking to do with the book when you use it is merge the two languages, allow the French to be understood via your knowledge you have with the fluent English. Okay, so we're not just relying on your French knowledge because we know that it's low. You're at a beginner level, that's fine, it's normal. Use your English to understand the French absolutely best you can. Another thing with this is you're merging the French with the English, okay? And via doing that as well, the key thing is you've got audio every single time you're listening to French. Now, there's a video there, I've just put it up in the link there. If you can't find it, click to my channel, you'll see it was uploaded a week ago. I explain how I would go from beginner to advanced / fluent French in just 12 months. And that's a good support to this video here. Same things I'm talking about, very similar. And the explanation there is, okay, you want to go from beginner to intermediate French, reading and listening at the same time. So lots of people, they'll try and learn podcasts and then they'll try and read books. Do it at the same time. Very simply, you find a text like Asimil, which has the French audio. And what that means is you've got reading, you've got listening, you're doing them at the exact same time, 2 times the input. I know lots of you, you're very busy, you work, okay? Say 9 to 5, or you run your own business. What that looks like is you don't have an hour, 2 hours to be spending a day learning French. You might have 20 minutes on some days, 10 minutes on some days. Often, you probably have 30 or 40 minutes you could dedicate to French if you had a proper method that you knew would work, if you dedicated the time. And to that effect, you want something that's simple, something that you're able to work on each day and know that you're actually progressing. And to that effect, you need something that's actually going to be bang for your buck. So something that is going to provide you with the level of French learning you need to keep progressing. Because it's not good enough to do half an hour of podcast a day and that's it. Simply because you've only worked on listening. It's not good enough to just read a grammar book or a short story for 30 minutes a day. You need to do your listening as well. Asimil takes around 20 minutes a lesson. And what you're doing there is you're working through and you're hitting reading and listening at the same time. You're also translating to English throughout the whole book. And with that, again, that video there that I've just posted a week ago that explains the book, I show it on the call. And that video there, that should give you everything you need to know about the book and how to start using it if you want to go out on your own. And the other thing you want to do with learning French is absolutely make sure that you have, from the start, when you start learning, you have at least a solid belief that you can actually learn French. Now, this doesn't have to be a 100% conviction, put my life on the line, I'm going to be able to listen to a podcast in 6 months, I'm going to be able to speak French well in 12 months. It doesn't have to be that set in stone, but you need to know your goal, you need to know how you're gonna get there, and you absolutely need to know that you can get there, okay? Lots of people focus on the goal, which is important, but what about actually believing you can get there? Because if you set some crazy goal, like I'm gonna speak fluent French in 6 months, well, even if you have a really good map to get there, if you don't believe deep down, when you're by yourself, when you're not listening to me or someone else on YouTube, when you're simply by yourself sitting there thinking, can I actually get there? And if the answer is, I don't think so, probably not, you won't get there. But if you can just believe, you know what? Rory here on YouTube got there. He's got lots of students, 7 at the moment, which are on their way there. Geez, I reckon I can do this. What he's explaining in these videos here, for example, is making lots of sense. These other French YouTubers that I've watched, they're making a lot of sense. They're helpful to me. They're giving me good knowledge. I think I can actually do this. That is what you need. It doesn't have to be 100% conviction. Lots of my students, they join up with me and they're like, okay, so, this is what you're gonna do with French with me. Okay, cool. That makes a lot of sense. I'm not 100% convinced, but I can see that what you're saying makes sense. What I'm gonna be learning with you makes sense. I have pretty good conviction it's gonna work. And I say to them, that's enough. If you can see that, okay, this is gonna work, and you know that you can put the time in daily to learn, 20, 30, 40 minutes, that's good enough. Once you get moving, you will build more confidence. Because at the moment, with your French, okay, you might have tried learning in the past, you might be currently trying to learn, you haven't gotten the results you want. In order to get the results you want, you need to do something different. What I offer to my students is something different every time, because they've never used a method like this. They've never used a textbook like this. They've never worked with someone one-on-one who truly understands what they need to do to learn French. Very simply, this is not to go after or attack any French tutors or teachers, but the problem is most of them are French natives, and what that means is they don't know what it's like to learn French from English. I do, because it's exactly what I did in 2020 to 2021 to 2022, right? So I understand the exact path. They don't. What my students have found is it's a problem, because when they try to explain something in French, they have a question in French, doesn't make sense to the English, the French tutors don't understand, because they're having to flip their experience completely. They learned English from French. We're learning French from English. It's a completely different game. So to that effect, that's what you need to be doing with French, really building your belief, okay? You need to have some sort of belief that you can actually do it. It can build over time, absolutely. Mine did personally as well, and same with all my students. But the thing is, you definitely don't want to be going in with the mindset of, we'll see, I probably won't learn, I probably won't succeed. It's just not going to be positive for you, and it won't be productive, I don't want you to waste time like that. It doesn't make sense, right? You've got to have some sort of belief that at least, say, you're going to get to half of your goal, or, what you're doing is actually going to work on some areas of your French. You don't have to get it perfect, but you need something like that. And then third, we've got what my students are currently liking, okay, working with me. First thing is, they don't have to make French a full-time job. That's a key thing, because there are so many resources online for French, it is ridiculous. I actually get shocked. When I started learning French in 2020, I'd go online and there were maybe 5, 6 main French YouTubers, and then some other smaller ones that no one really watched, right? And there were maybe, say 1,000 or not even, maybe 500 French story videos I could watch. Say Jack walking around the park with Sister Sally, and then they go to the cafe, stuff like that, where it's an animated short story that are very helpful. Now there's 50,000. There are so many French videos online. There are so many different people giving lots of different pieces of advice. It can get very flostering. and it can put your French progress on hold because you have an incapacity to make an actual decision, because it's like you're at the shops, okay? You're at the supermarket, at the store, and you have to pick a chocolate bar, but there's 500 chocolate bars. I don't know which one to pick. I have to check them all. Well, I went through that experience when I first started learning French. I was trying so many different resources. It was just tiring. Honestly, it's very stressful. And so my students, they liked it. Okay, for the first 6 months, I'm just using one resource. Yes, because that's all you need. You don't need 500 resources. And to that effect, it's very simple. You don't have to stress about, oh, I'm gonna have to go out and find another resource. What about I try this one and then that one? Oh, I'm sort of not getting enough progress on this resource. Let me go try this one for 2 months, then I'll go try the other one. I'll have to spend time searching. You don't have to worry about that. You've just got the one resource with me. And another thing that we like is I don't have to study grammar, okay? Because for 6 out of 7 of my students, they just want to be able to speak good French. They want to be able to communicate well. To that effect, why would they need to learn grammar? I see so many French YouTubers, no offense to them, they're doing great. They do great videos. I'm sure they're helpful, but they do lots of videos on grammar. That's not helpful, right? If you're not trying to pass an exam, why would you learn grammar? Learn it once you're fluent in French, then learn it, Get your French from a 95% to a 98%, fine. But if you're just trying to build a good level of French to be able to communicate with friends, family, loved ones, other people you meet, work, doesn't matter, travel, you don't need to learn grammar. And to that effect, my students like that because they don't have to stress about getting every little rule perfect. They can just simply work through at a natural pace and allow the French to come to them, okay? That's important because going from beginner to intermediate, just as I said before, it's the most difficult part with French. The reason is, for example, if you've been studying French well, doing it well, for 3 months' time, okay? You've got 3 months of French knowledge to base yourself on, okay? So in any circumstance where there's something new in French, you only have 3 months of French to help you understand what you're trying to learn. If you've been learning French for 6 months, you've now got double. You've got 2 times as much French which you can use in order to understand a problem in French or something that you're trying to learn. To that effect, it's not as difficult. You can overcome challenges. You've basically got 2 times the resource, the knowledge base that you can use to understand something. So that's important as well. It's where when you're learning French from the start, you want to know that what you're doing is actually going to work, okay? And that's another thing they like. The Assimil book and the other things that I show them as well, which could be videos, could be podcasts, any other resources which would work in line with the exact goal they want. So everything is unique. With each of my students, I've got a unique plan that I work through with them, unique progress for each of them as well. They've got unique goals. And to that effect, it's something where, they've got the one-on-one support, okay? Whether that be weekly, bi-weekly, every 2 weeks, constant support via email, whatever they like. And let's just say they find it more useful than a French tutor, simply because with the French tutor, they don't understand the big picture. They don't know what you need to do to go from beginner all the way to fluent. Yes, they're very helpful with grammar, I agree. So if you're at an advanced French level, don't even consider booking a call down below and speaking with me. To get to fluent, that's going to be very easy. All you have to do is just, maybe speak a bit more French, okay, work on your accent, maybe learn a couple of grammar rules, you can get to fluent. But if you're a beginner and you've been trying to learn French before and you don't know what resources to use, you've been using tens, even hundreds, none of them are really working, you're tired, you're demotivated, and you just actually want to learn French once and for all, you need to be making sure that what you're using this time is going to work. And you need to make sure you have someone with you to help you on that process, okay? You can try by yourself, but if you've been trying by yourself for a long time, one of my students for 3 years, he was using Pimsleur for 3 years, and he made basically 0 progress, okay? And you can go and try Pimsleur again. He was considering that. He said to me, okay, 6 months ago, I complete Pimsleur for the 3rd time, and I still hadn't made any progress in 3 years, right? He was trying his best to learn. And he said to me, I was considering doing it again, but then I was like, that would just make no sense because I've gone all this time for 3 years trying to learn French and I've made basically 0 progress. You're still beginner. Why would I do it again? You've got to change. So, that's correct. To make change, you've got to change. You've got to do something different. And that's where my students, they like having me there one-on-one, because I know what it's like to learn French from English. I did it just a few years ago. And overall, they're doing good. And it's something where, please go and try and learn French by yourself. Because if you can figure it out by yourself, awesome. I'm really happy for you. That's exactly what I want. I hope my videos are helpful. But then if you're looking for that one-on-one guided support and you want to partner up with me, then you can just book a call there in the description of the video. And yeah, I can build out a unique learning plan for you to, get you moving along towards your goal. Check out my last video on my channel. I explain a plan and what that looks like. That's a general plan. It's not exact, but it is something where we can use that as a skeleton, and I do for my students, use that as a skeleton in order to build out their unique movement plan, basically, from beginner to advanced. Yeah, that is how you learn French in 365 days, to refer back to the title. That's where you do the things I was talking about in the video here. You avoid the things I was saying not to do, and within 12 months you can be at an advanced/fluent level, depending on how much time you put in daily. It can end up being, say, 18 months, 500 days. If you're not putting in, say 40, 60 minutes a day. If you're doing 30 minutes a day on average, you can get there in 12 months, it's possible. But yeah, that's everything for the video here. I hope this was useful. You can go ahead and check my other videos on my channel. And yeah, best of luck with your French, and thank you for watching. Au revoir.